Get ready. I'm ready. Are you ready? Because I'm ready. Spicy Bites. Spicy Bites. A show everyone loves. They like it. Listen once or twice. One more, we don't care. Or you'll pay the price. Pay it. Pay it. Pay it. Spicy Bites.
Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 3 of Spicy Bites, sponsored by Wasabi. And when I say sponsored by, I mean they pay both of us to work for them. They don't specifically sponsor the show. But beyond that, hey, I just wanted to say hello. I'm Sean Greenhall, and with me, as always, is Andrew Smith. Andrew, hello.
Hey, Sean. We're back.
What's shaking? How you doing this afternoon?
Doing good.
You
Not
ready?
too bad.
You ready
Super
to-
hot outside. Hiding in the AC.
Yeah, definitely AC is a big upside here with the heat dome that's descended on the entire northern hemisphere.
Yeah.
So, if you hear any flames in the background, that's just what that is. So yeah, what are we talking about today?
I think the topic of conversation for the day is, maybe we're going to focus on a little bit of analytics, AI/ML, right? All the things data and analytics oriented that have dominated the headlines since, God, I don't know, the first 3 months of this year. Whenever ChatGPT kind of burst into the popular mainstream media and became a thing. That's what got everybody riled up about the impact of AI and machine learning from an enterprise standpoint once again.
I haven't seen this kind of debut really since Justin Bieber's first album came out, where it's just that kind of torrid attention and just a lot of, intense interest. But I guess that's like more in a tech way and in a business way. Like Bieber's more of a teen heartthrob, but you sort of understand where I'm coming from with that.
Yeah, I do.
Hey, before we get any further into our planned discussion about AI and ML, I wanted to bring everyone up to date. This is our 3rd episode of Spicy Bites, and if you haven't been paying attention, Spicy Bites is kind of taking the world by storm. There's a lot of chatter online, on the forums, on Reddit, across social, and really even into print media. So I wanted to, if people haven't seen this out in the world, I wanted to bring you up to speed on some of the coverage we've been getting. And Andrew, you actually haven't seen this either. So,
No, I have not. I'm excited.
So here we go.
It's just the top of your head on that one.
So that's just some of the press that we've been getting, and our publicists said that if we kind of keep it up this week, if we really hit it out of the park, like we could think about Rolling Stone for next episode. There's no telling what kind of publication be in. Time if it's early in the year, but like we could be the co-people of the year potentially, right. But it kind of hinges on how we do here. So
okay,
a good one. We got to keep
set the bar high.
Yeah, keep the bar high, keep it going. Generally the format of this show is I kind of am the marketing guy. I'm more of like the digital content guy, i.e. less technical, whereas Andrew is really the guy within Wasabi who everyone goes to on, market intelligence, strategy, grooming tips, and also, as always, the headgear that he wears.
Yeah.
Talk on over Zoom and this podcast as well. He's sort of like the go-to guy for that too. So basically, I end up asking him questions. They're generally, they're not the brightest questions, but Andrew kind of always brings it back around to something that will be of value to you as probably a tech decision maker or just somebody who lurks on LinkedIn. I'm not sure who you are, but here you are watching us. So before I start asking those questions, I wanted to bring some light onto a new feature of a video production software that I have. And it's basically the beta of it came out last week, and you can give it prompts like you would in ChatGPT, and then it spits out this video. So
Okay.
I put in, the prompt was something like, what will happen in the future when AI takes over the world? And I swear to God, this is what it spit out at me. Here we go. That is real. The AI really, really made that. And in fact, I had to go in and take out some like even darker stuff that
Really?
we couldn't have on the LinkedIn corporate account. But man, wow.
They nailed it, except for the jingle. They nailed it. I feel like the
music
jingle
was
was a little too upbeat.
That juxtaposition didn't work as well.
Yeah.
Maybe more. They need some more downbeat stuff. But it begs that AI created that in literally 20 seconds.
Wow.
And as someone who makes videos for a living, I'm a little concerned. So as a result of that, my first question is, will AI replace me? Can you speak to that a little bit and, maybe like soothe some of my anxiety about the topic?
Yeah, this is the great unknown of like what is the potential of AI, ML, especially for specific not careers, but I guess careers, industries, right? How easily will or will it not be able to perform basic tasks and then replace large swaths of the workforce? You've heard IBM come out with some pretty bold claims about how they want to drive efficiency in the workforce through AI and reduce the reduce the workforce overall. I think even in the Hollywood actor and writer strike now, AI is a topic of concern.
Yeah,
with like,
for sure.
Yeah, and that's will be brought to what I assume will be the negotiation table in terms of like, are we going to create laws, regulations, guardrails around what AI should and should not do in the workplace? And that's, who knows what that conversation is going to look like. I think, in the short term, you've got to think that these AI solutions, especially the ones that we kind of have like free, unfettered access to in terms of generative AI, like the one you're using for the video or things like ChatGPT, will help us do a better job quicker, right? Get information quickly, potentially not replace us altogether, but like, that video could have served as draft number one
Absolutely.
of Sean's, post-apocalyptic nightmare brochure video, and you iterate on that, but it gives you things to think about. So that's probably, I hope that's the most realistic case moving forward, that we use these tools to augment the work we do and accelerate the work we do, just like any other piece of technology. So, but yeah, we've grown up in a time of, you know, Terminator movies and Skynet, so it's hard to not let the let the bad thoughts creep in.
It's really funny you should say that, because that pertains to one of my questions later.
Okay.
So that's a good answer. One of the things that it reminds me of, and this does not bode well really, is that when synthesizers became readily available in the 70s and 80s, which is actually, it's funny because David Friend, our CEO, was a co-founder of the ARP synthesizer company.
Yeah.
When those synthesizers became available to working musicians, there were unions of musicians, especially in symphonies and orchestras, who, you know, put up a huge fight because they felt like they were being replaced by this new technology, you know, right when it became available to everyone in the same way that sort of ChatGPT has become available,
Yeah.
you know, all these other use cases for it. So I'm hoping that, you know, you don't really see an orchestra on late night shows anymore. You see a band, but you know, what used to be 30 people is now one guy at a keyboard. So maybe there's an analog in there somewhere.
I think that's a great analogy. And, you know, it's cyclical, especially with new technology. There's a lot of concern about how it can disrupt norms, especially
Right.
in the workforce. But the other thing, so what security, I didn't bring that up, but at the end of the day, a lot of these solutions are crunching data that's public or could be public. You know, the data that you feed these models can become like part of their parameters, and that's really not always public, especially if it's you know, like an open source based tool or algorithm or model. So, from an enterprise standpoint, I think there's going to be a lot of hesitance to kind of just be like, hey, use this to crunch all of our engineering documents and come up with a new idea, because it's going to be it's going to be processing what is
Proprietary data.
proprietary, confidential. So that whole, I feel like the entire security aspect of this conversation is going to be one of the major hindrances that will keep us employed in the near future.
Are you saying that I shouldn't be training an AI with entries from my diary?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
those aren't the types of
No,
thoughts or writings that we would want out on the internet?
no. I mean, maybe just anonymize it. Don't be like, you know, Sean.
Right. So if I do some redaction, maybe I can still.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That's
You
good.
know,
All right. Well, that was an excellent answer. Shall we move on to the next question? Here we go. So that's a legit question that I think everyone's wondering about. What are some AI applications that you see out there that where you're sort of like, man, this is something that could be really useful and disruptive?
so this is a good question because AI and machine learning, like they aren't new concepts. We've been, I don't, they're early in, you know, what we would consider the hype cycle, but we've been talking about AI and machine learning for, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years. But then the big question was like, what is the applicability in the enterprise? Because that's what drives use cases that drive revenue, right? And like, you know, that's, you can connect the dots to revenue, and that's when something becomes a business priority. That wasn't always there. And then at the beginning of this year on the commercial side, we had ChatGPT and
Yep.
generative AI platforms were the use case that caught our imagination and made it popular. And I don't think we don't have a similar enterprise use case yet that's like caught the imagination of, because it's just a different market. But I think enterprises are searching for that answer. For interesting use cases that have caught my eye, I'll actually use a Wasabi customer. I don't know if we can name them, so I won't. But it's pretty much using natural language query and processing similar to what Gen AI does, but the analytics, the processing that they're doing is on the underlying storage metadata to
Mm.
bring you to identify specific spots in a video file where something might be happening. So you're on the platform, you're storing a boatload of terabytes and terabytes of video, and you type into the search query, I want to see every frame that has a blue car in it, right? And you kind of structure that in natural language and send it off, and it brings back all the video clips with a blue car based on metadata. So that kind of like quick processing of data based on, like, you didn't need to structure an entire database and set specific queries to be able to establish those results. You just asked it a string of text, and it processed that and brought back what uh, the algorithm thought you were looking for. So that's probably things in video imaging, I think, are like the short-term use cases where we'll see a lot of traction. So media and entertainment use cases, um, probably anything to do with like visual from a, like, I'm thinking VDI or like CAD CAM engineering types of use cases will be potentially pretty popular as like those, I don't know, entry level use cases. Those are the things that have come up in conversation on the Wasabi side, and that some of our partners that we've integrated with are actually doing in real life, right? Out in the wild. That solution exists today.
Yeah. As someone who edits a bit of video, it is really time consuming. It's almost like going back to the thing in real time and sort of re-experiencing the thing that happened. So anything that you can do to expedite that process is really creating a huge increase in efficiency. So
Oh, the
tons
other thing is
for that.
on the web serving side. So, there's a whole industry around just basic creating web pages, forums, all that stuff. This is completely my assumption, but I think that's an industry that's ripe for kind of like disruption through analytics, AI, ML. So imagine being able to type in a prompt, be like, "Hey, a, uh, I need a basic web page for real estate with, you know, a tab for listings in my area, whatever area that might be." You type it in, it creates you like a templated website that you can then customize, but it gives you a start, something like that. So I think these are all, I don't know what you would file these under, like more creative types of use cases, but they have enterprise applicability.
For sure. Yeah, I think that a lot of that is already happening to a certain extent. I'm sure they'll just get more and more powerful
Yeah.
as they learn more. Very cool. Next question.
Who's in it?
Haley Joe Osment, the kid that
No.
was in The Sixth Sense.
I've
And,
never seen that. What is?
Who's the guy? Who's the English guy? He plays one of the AIs. Anyway, it's a Spielberg movie from like the early 2000s, and it's pretty good. A lot of the AI futurism that happened back then focused on like physical robots,
Mhm.
whereas sort of what we're dealing with are more just kind of lines of code. And I think that's an interesting development. I wonder what will happen when you put ChatGPT into a Boston Dynamics robot, you know?
Yeah, I haven't seen that one. iRobot. Isn't
iRobot.
that's with Will Smith? Classic.
Got to go watch that again. I don't know
Yeah.
if I've actually seen that.
Oh, that's a good one. Now I'm trying to think of what else is on the.
None of these movies like end particularly well.
No, there's that Black Mirror episode. I forget
Yes.
which season it is, but it's got like the robot dogs,
Yes.
and it's kind of like post-apocalyptic. That was pretty good.
Well, so it's also got the robot that it was created from text messages. So one of the characters passes away.
Yes,
and
that
then
one
they
is.
upload all of his emails and
Yes,
text messages, and
that
you get
one's slightly terrifying.
yeah, that one's definitely terrifying.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to throw some entertainment in there, some entertainment trivia. You know how Siri has a voice? You know how these AIs have a voice? If you could choose one actor or actress, who would it be? Like a Morgan Freeman? Doesn't have to be.
Sean Connery.
That would be good. That would be good because everything would be kind of lyrical and whimsical.
Yep.
And Welsh.
Welsh,
right?
Yeah. I think so. Yes. So it's not. I was going to say the British accent would make everything sound better, but it's not a British accent. He has a Welsh or Scottish accent. I forget which one it is, but his accent nonetheless would make everything coming out of AI generated.
It would kind of give it some gravitas, you know?
Yes. Yes.
It's like, your Grubhub order is here. Like that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Next. In retrospect, that's just kind of a super broad question, and we've sort of touched on some of it already, but like, are you using ChatGPT, and what are your initial impressions of it?
So I've played around with it, and it's good for, like I said, it's good for kind of giving you quick summary information in a readable format. But I mean, it can be super repetitive, and it's like if you ask it a question that's like, especially things that I might be interested in from a professional standpoint. So if I'm like, hey, what are the features that our competitors have that we don't, or what are the features that the cloud storage market needs and why?
Yeah.
And you pose those types of questions, it can get like super repetitive. It'll just kind of like give you a list, and then like
list of generalities, kind of.
Yeah, a list of generalities, and then it'll be like, because I said so type of thing. Like it doesn't really go into any particular depth. It'll just like repeat itself. So there's definitely like the element of actual, when you're reading something, especially when you get a prompt back, it's easy for us to identify like that lack of actual critical human thinking.
Yeah.
And once the models can start to emulate that, then I think it'll be a big differentiator probably. But even in so coming from the analyst world, there were analyst firms or like market research firms that were using Gen AI based solutions to produce like briefs on a specific market or something, and they're just not good. They're pretty bad.
Yes.
So what I did have fun with though was Dolly. So the generative AI, it's the open AI based open AI based image processing platform. So you give it a text prompt like, I want to see a horse flying through the sky on a rainy afternoon, and it'll produce that. It'll give you like 4 versions of that.
One,
yeah. So I mean, that kind of stuff from the, I don't know, more artistic oriented kind of like imagination type stuff, I think is awesome, because it'll give you like a template, especially if you're an artist. You could take those, import them into like Adobe or whatever you're doing, and you have ideas to play with. So when it's not text based, when it's image based, you get some pretty interesting stuff that I think is more conducive to like actually creating something.
Adobe Photoshop has a new generative fill. It's powered by AI, and essentially, you might have seen this on social, but you can basically take any frame and take some element out of it and select it, and it will just fill in whatever it comes up with, basically, and it's flawless. It's incredible.
Okay.
And I've seen on the internet, like a picture of the Mona Lisa, and then it'll interpolate like everything happening around, like the chair that she's sitting on, and like
that's cool.
Wild. So
yeah, I mean, these types of solutions have been around in like imaging and video for a while, because I was just thinking when you were saying the Adobe thing, NVIDIA has always done its DLSS, it's deep learning super sampling. So in its graphics cards, it'll actually like upscale your image. So say you're it's producing like a 1080p image, but it'll upscale it to like 4K or something. It's basically doing the same thing that you were talking about on the Adobe side. It's kind of like it's interpreting what pixels should be where to make it a higher quality image and like streaming those. So yeah, lots of really cool use cases on like the more image and artistic side, rather than like asking ChatGPT to write me a book report on Moby Dick or something.
Or to create questions for my podcast called Spicy Bytes. I don't know who would
come up with
do that, but that person's lazy. Let's go to the next question. So a lot of the audience here probably understands what machine learning is, but could you give us like a book report level kind of ML into AI process overview?
I guess I usually think about it like ML is the process and AI is a little bit of a catch-all term for like what the actual output is. Like, I don't think you can have artificial intelligence without some aspects of machine learning under the covers. But machine learning is that kind of like, is the critical part of your data workflow. It's usually has all of the steps that are required for ingesting data, cleansing data, training and inferencing, and the algorithms that go along with that to produce an output. So usually when we think about like ChatGPT as a model, it'll usually be referred to in like parameters, right? Billions of parameters, and those parameters are established through the machine learning process, right? And then all of that can be packaged into some artificial intelligence that includes ChatGPT, image processing, some other business applications, and that's kind of like your all up AI based solution. So I think of like AI as the top level, ML is one level down, and ML kind of helps you also. ML encapsulates that entire data processing pipeline from ingest to inferencing. I don't know if I'm making things better or worse, but that's the way.
I think better in terms of, my knowledge, certainly. Yeah, thanks for that. If and when the enterprise kind of catches up here and sort of some of these applications become more, there's clarity around what they are for enterprise, how do you think Wasabi is going to play there?
Well, I think the great thing about being a storage company is we'll have, arguably, we have a seat at the table for any of these solutions because they all require infrastructure. And especially the way that a lot of these enterprises are scrambling to try to develop AI-based solutions, services, tools. A lot of times they're not going to have the time to provision the underlying infrastructure themselves. And by that, I mean like on premises. Like they need to go out and get a bunch of servers, fill them with GPUs, fill them with storage, hook them up, network them, and then get their engineers working on it. A lot of times, the easiest way to start developing solutions on these platforms is to have a cloud service that gives you instant access, gives instant access to the underlying resources, as well as like, whatever other software tools your developers might need to start developing and testing. So I think that's kind of where we fit in. Not only are we an essential part of the infrastructure equation from a storage standpoint, but we can deliver that in a managed way immediately so developers can have it, right? Think about like the drop-down menu. Where are you going to store the outputs of your model? Drop down, put them in Wasabi, and move on with very little thought. But I think the harder question is like where, and the thing that I'm struggling with is where in the AI ML workflow is storage needed the most, right? A lot of the storage and a lot of the work done in these models and training is kind of like ephemeral. It's not really, outputs are deleted or they're rewritten. They're not stored for long periods of time. Some of these models have parameters that are extremely well, the models themselves, like think about a text-based model versus a video-based model.
Yep.
You're talking about orders of magnitude more storage that
Right.
needs to be processed from videos than just text. So these are the nuances that are, I think, becoming really important for Wasabi in terms of where we position ourselves to be of value in the workflow. We provide S3 based object storage that's simple and easy to use. So we want to be able to make sure we connect ourselves to the use cases that need that. So I think a lot of them are going to be those image and video based models and solutions based on those models, where Wasabi has the largest opportunity. And then, of course, we have opportunity on the partner side to work with cloud compute providers who are delivering the raw accelerated GPU based compute, high performance computing needed. All of that will need a storage counterpart to go along with it. And I think that's another big opportunity area for Wasabi.
Bit of a tangent here, but as is my way. On the detective shows when there's like a clue and then they're like, oh, there's a surveillance camera up there. Let's go to the surveillance room, and then they're combing through hours and hours of surveillance video, and like the guy in the booth is like getting bored, and they're like, okay, how much more of this do you need to look at, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Presumably with machine learning, and again, I'm way out over my skis here. Presumably, if you stored all this surveillance data with us, content with us, and then you're able to search metadata. So if you say like, I want to find a blue car, or I want to find this license plate number, or I want to find this face, you search that with a query. That seems like a really huge opportunity where you could just keep everything at a really high resolution because you have unlimited cloud with us. So that's,
yeah, I think a lot of our VMS partners on the surveillance side are hot on that opportunity, right? They all want to add. They're not only doing kind of like the management and processing of video feeds from cameras, but there's now this massive gold rush opportunity for them to add the software that does exactly what you're talking about, to make things more efficient end to end. So yeah, I think that's a massive opportunity area that's has a very tangible use case when it comes to the impact of AI ML to do what you just said.
So detectives mostly.
Yeah,
Detectives
detectives.
want to have
Detectives are gonna love it.
Wasabi Cloud Storage.
Well, like that's the thing. I mean, maybe not like maybe investing in an AI-based software platform is not very appealing to like the convenience store that has surveillance set up. You know, they
Right.
probably just have enough that they're overriding it every week and they don't really care because nothing ever happens. But like think about a massive national bank chain, if they can save money or time with that sort of solution, then they can push that down from like the corporate level to all the branches and have that implemented as a solution. And that's kind of how, from an enterprise standpoint, these things become actual real world use cases.
Right. Well, we're at a half hour. I'm going to cruise through these last questions.
All right.
Here we go.
Yes, a million times.
You know, I think we discussed Terminator enough, and I think everybody understands
Classic.
how that ended up for everyone. So next
Yep.
question. I think we really covered that one.
We covered this one too. We're essential, like everything else. Wasabi's an essential ingredient, right? Storage is going to be required for. So we'll go through the pipeline one more time, or the workflow, the AI workflow. So there's data ingest, cleansing, model training, and inferencing, and then there's kind of like this fifth step or last step in the process where you either decide to store or archive outputs. And I think that, and some of these are circular, right? Like you might get to training and it goes back to ingest and cleanse, and you might get to inferencing and it goes back to training. I think a lot of the workflow for ML AI is cyclical, but at some point you're going to need to store, archive, backup outputs, long-term retention to there might be sensitive data as part of these outputs that need to be made immutable or
My
private.
diary, my journal.
Yeah, your diary. Yep, exactly. So there's the bad part about being early in this hype cycle is it's hard for us to identify where a lot of those stored volumes are falling.
Right.
But we kind of know conceptually that as these models become more mature and more data hungry, there will, and more utilized, there will naturally be larger volume outputs, larger a growing need to store those outputs. So that's all massive opportunity for Wasabi.
Cool. Last question here. So this is more of a, I guess this is almost me just checking in and saying like, how's this going? Is like, you know, maybe like, are we at the point where in the case of an AI dystopia, you know, we'd get some canned food and maybe some lanterns and just like, we could do the show from there still.
Right. I feel like maybe with your charisma maybe might, like you could win over some of the robots. Like
Okay.
they would look at you as maybe like a human ambassador, they so that might save us, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm thinking
So I could
about
be like a jester for the robots,
self-preservation,
and then you are like
find us
plotting
useful,
how we get away, type of thing.
maybe they were like, hey, we saw what you guys did in Spicy Bytes and we'd like you to do something similar for the new robot race,
For our overlords.
So maybe we would have some value there that they could leverage. But I mean, I don't know. What kind of bunker
It's
are
a
we
best
talking?
case scenario, though.
What kind of bunker are we talking about? How much space do we
A
have?
bunker, I think, they actually have these silos that are buried in the ground. So this is like a huge complex. It wouldn't be like a small basement situation. You would have your own area.
Okay.
There would be
I like
like
that.
place to store like goods. There'd be a ping pong table.
Right.
Nice TV with streaming services.
You can bring the dog.
The dogs will be there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it could be manageable.
Yeah, then totally.
All right. Well, I think we did it all here. I think we did it all. We said it all. And I want to thank you once again for coming on and bringing some knowledge to this. Whatever this is.
Of course, we're gonna. I think the next step for us on Spicy Bites is to bring in some actual SMEs, some subject matter experts. Maybe we can get some guests in here. We can probably ask them awkward questions together. Maybe team
Yes.
up a little bit against our guests. That would be
love
fun.
that. I love that. Yeah, let's get some subject matter experts on and just see how far we can push them.
Yeah, before they sign off. No, but thank you for hosting as always. Great topic for today. I think this is one that we could probably revisit in like a month, and we would have totally different answers.
Yep.
So
from the bunker.
This is Sean and Andrew still here.
All right. This has been Spicy Bites episode 3. We will see you next time. Signing off.
Thanks.